Okay, everyone. This hangout is a proof that status chasing is antithetical to the truth. You cannot be 100% truthful and chase status. That's what the umbrella guy does. Now, even though Colonel Kurtz is also chasing status, she's also a woman, and telling the truth 100% goes against her self interest. Now, we'll get into this and I'll show you what I mean.
This is epic, Tug. You and I we've never spoken before. So hello.
Hey there.
Yeah, you know why, Kurtz? Because he's a status chaser, right? And you're just finally getting enough status that he can talk with you and boost his own. That's what's going on with him.
How's it going?
It's going so well. I'm so pleasantly surprised that you made it on. Are you normally a late night guy?
It depends, I got two kids, so it really depends on whether or not they allow me to be late.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Well, his wife has two children. He just has to pay for them. And this why Tug here is smart not to ever show his face. Because he could get himself fired. And then we all know what happens after that to family men, right?
hear you. I hear you. Well, I assume that they're in bed now, or not.
Oh yeah. They've been in bed. I don't sleep a lot, so but typically on the weekdays, I mean, I keep a real.
Yeah, he doesn't sleep a lot because he's a typical married man. He has to work constantly to keep that woman into his life, right?
Never trust YouTube, for earnings. I've never gone that. I watched your video on your decision there, but for family and stuff, I've never gone full time. So normally, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, this is important, everyone. Why hasn't he gone full time? Why does this guy have a full time job? Because Kurtz can take a chance. She has a boyfriend, and she maybe she's got her own place by now, but she was living with her mommy, and she still had a boyfriend. So women can be zero status and still have a boyfriend, still be taken care of. Tug being a man can't do that. If he went full time and he couldn't earn money fast enough, his wife would divorce him and she would take her children away and he'd be paying for them.
I'm up in the morning because I have a job.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how I really respect like people who have jobs and families. Like I don't have any kids and I don't know. I'm just amazed at like how productive you all can be.
Tug isn't productive. He's a slave. That's what's going on here. He has no choice. It's not because he's ambitious. He wants to keep this wife bribed in his life, and that's why he performs the way he performs. And by the way, Kurtz, I live more like you. I don't have a girlfriend, of course. I don't have the status for that. But the point being is, I want to tell the truth. So I don't give a shit about gaining status. I want the pro male message spread because I want to keep my rights intact. Actually, I want to gain back the ones that I've lost. Tug here doesn't give a shit about his rights. He just wants status and keep his wife around.
But so look, thank you for coming and I was so thrilled. I listened to your live stream earlier tonight and I was so thrilled to hear you talking about the Manson stuff and that you're going to start looking into it more whatever. And I'm just curious like what part of this story do you find this whole situation like what is most sort of interesting or captivating or jaw-dropping to you? Is there some stuff that stands out for you?
I think I think the fake FBI letter. I think that's pretty much a hook for anyone. Anyone that sees that.
No, that's not the most surprising to me, everyone. It's the fact that this young woman that they're talking about, who made the fake FBI letter, isn't behind bars. I guarantee you that if a man did this, he'd be behind bars. So that's what should be shocking this guy.
It's an undeniable fact in there. It brings up something that should make even like the hardest supporter of Listen and Believe say, well, maybe there's a problem here.
Yeah, and you were talking tonight on your stream also about something that still a lot of people, I think, outside of Manson world are not aware of, which is the crazy custody dispute that was going on between Evan Rachel Wood and Jamie Bell.
Oh yeah, I was reading that. So I saw where you posted about it. So I looked up the primary document on that. That is insane. I mean, that is absolutely insane.
It really,
well, it is insane that women can do this to men, and legally so. That's true.
is. And it's like you used the word tonight talking about it. It's basically more or less a kidnapping. And I had some people, when I used that word to describe what happened. So for people who don't know, just briefly, Evan Rachel Wood took her child from LA to Tennessee unauthorized and kept him there, and even against the wishes of his father. And his father was not able to see the kid for months. And all of this under this pretext that Marilyn Manson, that she had to hide from Marilyn Manson. But like you said, kidnapping, and some people have gotten on to me before for using that word. But I mean, I feel like that's what happened.
You didn't feel like that's exactly what's happened. And if you were honest, Kurtz, you would say that's what happened. And the fact that people, what do you mean by people? Your own subs are getting on your case? In other words, if it's your own subs, but they are part of the problem, they are against the truth. If the husband did that, they would call it kidnapping, which is what it is. But it just goes to show you that all of society worldwide sees the children as the property of the woman. And it always does. And that's why nothing ever happens to these women.
That is. I mean, you know, when you're talking about, when you look at that lawfully, I mean, isn't that kidnapping really? It's the unlawful seizure.
Well, obviously, Umbrella Guy, it is lawful. It is lawful for women to steal children. It's their, actually, they're not even stealing children. It's their children. Society sees it that way. The legal system sees that way. That's why men pay child support and women don't.
In detention of a person. I mean, again, you could go in the against your will, but we're talking about a child that can't consent to that anyway. So when the parent, I mean, when you have dual custody, when you ghost someone where you're sharing custody, I don't know another way to if it were a man that did that,
yeah.
I think a lot more people would be okay with the word kidnapping.
Well, there you go. Thanks for admitting that. You see, these guys can tell the truth to a certain degree, but they will always come to a brick wall. Because if Tug here tells the truth, 100%, he's going to get in trouble with his wife. Because it's going to hurt his status. They're going to call him an incel. Hey, Tug, once you get the incel slur, that's an attack on your status. So he knows better. Everybody.
Well, that's the thing, is that exactly, if a man, and not just the absconding with the child part, but there's so much stuff in those family court documents, and if a man had done what Evan Rachel Wood supposedly or apparently did, there would be no excusing it. People would be up in arms.
Oh yeah, the media would.
Exactly. The average person is male hostile, you two. The average person is against the male citizens having rights. That's what you're looking at. And that's why you have to voice it if you want to be honest about the situation.
Be all over it. I mean, that's the most surprising thing about any of these cases when you get down to it. It's the insane things that go unreported because there's a narrative, and you know, these mainstream media heads, they gotta go out there, they have their specific talking point, and that's all they'll cover. If it goes outside of that.
But it's not a narrative that allowed this woman, Rachel Wood, to run off with the child. The legal system allows it. The average person supports it.
They
ghost the case.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, do you feel like enough people learned a lesson with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, or do you feel like that? I mean, did that make a big dent in public perception, or
No, they didn't. Because people give lots of lip service, but they take no action. The man haters who support Amber Heard, they take action. And they're in charge. And that's why this narrative, Hug, is put foremost. And that's one everyone hears.
Still kind of basically, a lot of people still are on this old narrative.
I think the old narrative is strong, but I think it made a difference. I think there are some people, but you know, in a society,
it doesn't make a difference unless people are willing to do something about it, and they're not. Because like Kurt just said here, the average person supports women owning their children. The average person does not want to describe this woman kidnapping her own child as kidnapping.
Society where we have the attention span of gnats, you know, we're fit TikTok video.
No. See, this is what I'm talking about not saying the truth. This is not about people's short attention span. This is about people's hostility to men. That's what's driving this, not their lack of attention span.
Yeah. You know, when we get our news really from headlines, most people, you know, we've seen plenty of studies where you have 4 out of 5 people or higher that just read headlines. I mean, they go back to the old narrative. It's hard. You're going to have to.
Yeah. So it's very important that you understand that the reason why people still believe it is because the headlines say so. And the reason the headlines say that so is because the feminist man-haters have control of the media. Do you understand that? So that's a truth you have to be willing to say.
You have to hammer that thing and hammer that. And no, I don't think enough people. I think there are people out there. Unfortunately, we have our arbiters of truth. They are well established. They are well entrenched.
Yeah, they're feminists. Say it. This is what I'm talking about, everyone. Unless he says the word feminist, then he's not saying the truth.
And yeah, a lot of people allow them to sculpt their thought. It's ugly, but it's true.
No, it is true. And I think, you know, and a lot of people are really busy. Like we were talking about, you know, work and kids and everything. And I think a lot of people are well-intentioned, but they're just so busy and they don't have time. Like all of these rabbit holes.
I disagree. People aren't well-intentioned. Your subs weren't well-intentioned when they refused to call Rachel Wood a kidnapper. People's intentions are very harmful to men. And people, when it's important to them, manage to find time, don't they?
You
have to like really dig in to like get the truth on Marilyn Manson, I think.
Well, you put out, you know, that wording there, well-intentioned, you know, that's most people are indeed well-intentioned. They want to go out. They don't want to see people victimized. That's why people addressed, you know, they saw the injustices in the legal system and they swung that pendulum over to listen and believe.
Look, I disagree. 100%. For one thing, listen and believe is the very opposite of good intentions. Listen and believe is about denying men a fair day in court. Those aren't good intentions. Those are evil intentions. It's the opposite of good. So Tug isn't saying the truth. Do you understand what I'm hammering home in this video? These people are not going to tell the truth.
Fortunately, you know, we even as early as 2019, you had the mainstream. They were bringing up, hey, maybe this is a problem. You know, you had articles coming out from places like Forbes, but unfortunately, that narrative, again, is so well entrenched, and there are people that benefit from it. I mean, we're not just talking about people using it for social currency. We're talking about big industry here. You know,
now this is a false narrative that Umbrella Guy is pushing. This is what I'm talking about, lack of truth. Every time the feminists attack men, people try to take it away from the hostility women feel towards men by saying people are about making money. That's how they circumcision. That's how they take away the blame from women, from mothers, from circumcising their boys. They'll say there are doctors that are making money, right? This is a lie, and Tug here is pushing a false narrative. Right. Okay. This isn't about money. We all know that, for example, Marvel Comics is losing money, is bleeding money. It doesn't matter about the money. It's all about harming men. If these two want to be truthful, they'd have to say that.
When you change that narrative of who's the abuser and who's the abused, yeah, you're taking on some real power.
Yeah, no, you're right. There are lots of people who have real interest of all kinds.
Again, it's not power, though. This is hostility. People want to find the bad guy to abuse. That's why when women do the same thing, the same bad acts, people scrounge for excuses. Because it's not about justice. It's about excuse the woman and get the guy.
Of all kinds for this narrative to keep getting pushed. I'm wondering, as somebody who has not done many shows on the Manson thing, but I think you've been keeping up and everything. Aside from the FBI forging, what do you think are some of the stronger points in Manson's favor, or things that you think the public would find compelling if more people learned about it?
I think when you have people that have come out and made accusations against him, and then they recant,
Yeah.
and again, some people are like, well, this person, maybe they're credible, maybe they aren't, because again,
Right, right.
they made an accusation. But even having someone recant, Manson's thing, first of all, I think it's
Let me tell everyone, all you guys, something that has very little impact. What Tug is talking about has very little impact. Just Kurtz admitted herself that all these Depp fans that were saying, how could they do this to Johnny Depp, went meh when it came to Marilyn Manson, because they weren't Manson fans. The only thing that's going to save Manson if he has fans to support him. But most people don't give a shit about it, do they?
Image issue, but it's also become a quantity issue. Some people can't imagine that multiple accusers could lie about something, but we've seen that happen before.
Multiple women. See, again, they're avoiding the truth. It's multiple women lying. And of course, they knew it in the Middle East, and that's why they used to have two women to make an accusation against a single man, because they knew female nature.
And once you chip somebody away, I think that's a point to hammer at.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that eHacker has said that I really like, I think is really clever, I wish I would have thought about it, is he said that, one way of looking at it is that if there are so many accusers, then there should be more evidence. So we've got, say there's this many women who are accusing him of stuff. Well, we should expect then with all of that to actually have some evidence.
Well, that's a silly thing for you to say, because they don't need evidence, obviously. Men get fired at these accusations all the time. They don't even necessarily have to go to jail. They lose employment and it hurts them. And people believe it because they want to believe it. So these women don't need evidence. The average person I talk to in my life supports this Me Too stuff 100%. So they don't need evidence. I'm sorry.
And there just hasn't been any valid evidence produced. I don't know. Have you seen the picture that Esme Bianco, the Game of Thrones actress, that she was trying to claim was her back with whip scars on it? I'm not sure if you've seen this or not.
Maybe.
Hold on a second. You probably have, but like, to me, this is just an example of the deeper problems with the accusations. So one of the only pieces of evidence that
the deepest problem is the fact that they're able to make it, period, without having to prove it. That's the deepest problem of this. That means the average man, that includes Tug here, doesn't have the same rights that you do.
One in this, any of the accusers put forward, was this picture. I'm going to share it right now. This picture that Esme Bianco gave to Good Morning America when she didn't.
I'm not going to skip past this. Yeah, her evidence wasn't clear. We understand that. Don't care about that.
Isn't that usually the claim, though? I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen that multiple times, you know, and these days we walk such a fine line these days because you in normal circumstances you don't want, like, if a person just comes out and they're asking for some kind of empathy, you know, hey, you know, this happened to me. That's why, you know, again, the well-intentioned Me Too movement. Yes, people want to.
He just told a bold-faced lie. The Me Too movement is not well-intentioned. I suspect these two know it's not well-intentioned, but that is the false narrative they're going to push. This man cannot gain status again. It would hurt his reputation if he came out and told the truth 100%. His wife would not like hearing it, and he'd be trouble at home. And people listening to his channel would stop listening. Because the average person, again, is male hostile. They want to believe, and not just male hostile, they want to believe women are good by dint of simply being born women. And it's even worse than that. It's the opposite. It's not simply that women are just mere humans. They have natural hostility to men and a disregard for men. And they're willing to go out of the way to hurt men just because they can. That's what this guy has to admit.
Give empathy. But when you see something wrong, you see something flagrant, I mean, they're destroying lives. They're either somebody needs to be removed, they need to be burned down, or, you know, there are lies about that, and we have to get this stuff right.
Okay, you have to start jailing women who use the hashtag then. They have to come with absolute proof or get jailed for false allegations. That's what you have to do. It would destroy Me Too. It would bury it. You know why? Because it was never good intentioned. Married man.
And well, I guess, and that's a great point. I guess the question I would ask you is, to people who might say, okay, so maybe these women did lie, and
Not maybe they did.
maybe Manson did not do these things that he's accused of, but he's got an icky image, and he said, you know, stuff in the past that I don't agree with, or it's not cool. And why should we waste our time, or why should we devote our time to this guy, this situation? Aren't there a lot of injustices in the world?
Yeah, what they're saying to you, Kurtz, is that we don't have any principles to men's rights. We don't want men to have their rights. We want to attack men, and we're glad that this guy is being attacked or wrongfully done. We're glad this guy has wrong done to him, simply because we don't like him. There's no principle there. So the average person who says that to you, I mean, they're not well-intentioned people, and they have no principles.
I would ask you, like, what do you think is compelling about a case like this in particular, or like Johnny Depp? I don't know.
Well, I think anybody that's falsely accused, first of all, they should get justice. But names that are recognizable, names on a larger stage like that, bring up, I mean, it brings up a social awareness. It says, hey, you know, like Depp, for example, you know, hammering that case, the reason you hammer that case and still hammer it is because, you know, if it can happen to that guy.
But their awareness doesn't change their attitudes, Tug. That's why Johnny Depp case didn't blow everything up. And that's why, by the way, they're starting to hide these cases, because they learned, the feminist and the anti-male legal system has learned that they can't show these trials publicly. They have to hide it now, because their purpose is to harm the man, harm the innocent man.
It can happen to anyone. Now, Manson, again, yeah, he had an image at one time that made you uncancelable. You couldn't cancel a shock rocker. I remember it. I mean, you know, I went to I think 3 concerts with Manson, back in the day for the Antichrist Superstar
Oh,
stuff.
A man can always be fired, no matter how high state. Tug, I want you to take the note of what I just said. No matter how much you status climb, you can be canceled at any time. And then your wife will leave you and take her children with her.
Oh, you went to the Manson concerts?
Yeah. I saw him with.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I saw him with Nin when they were doing the Portrait of American Family.
Okay.
When they were touring with that. Yeah, and then they blew up, and I saw the Antichrist Superstar. It was good enough that I saw it again. I was like, damn, I'm gonna catch it on the replay.
Oh, I think that's awesome that you've been to some concerts. I really do. So yeah, uncancelable. I guess you're saying that like it was almost like they were immune because they
weren't immune. They weren't immune. It's just that it didn't get to this point where the feminists got in power everywhere. And they got in power because the average person, like you two, allowed
it. That was their thing, right?
Well, yeah, shocking. I mean, you were going to be shocking. And really the one thing that could cancel you back then, you could be canceled by, religious authority, maybe. I mean, you were spitting in the eye of that. You were spitting in the eye of the old institution. And
religion authorities are punks next to the average woman on the street. They got no power by comparison. Once a group of women come up and identify as women, that's the ultimate trump card.
You said anything. I mean, you would say absolutely anything to shock, to repulse. I mean, there's been plenty of people that did that. And, again, that's not saying that there can't be evidence and stuff like, that. But like you said, with people claiming such, the claims are insane too. Another one is the video claim from Evan Rachel Wood.
It doesn't matter how insane their claims are if everyone supports them.
I mean, that's an insane claim, one that on its face, when you think about it, makes no sense whatsoever.
You don't need to be logical. The hostility people have towards the average man isn't logical anyway.
People just don't want to look at it.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of people who don't, particularly in the media, and some of us have talked about this before, but I do hate the facts, or I do hate the likelihood that the trial, the Manson, defamation and reckless conduct trial against Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore, I really hate the idea that it's probably not going to be televised, because like, what do you think it would have been like if the Johnny Depp thing had not been televised?
Exactly. Thank you for admitting what I just said earlier. They learned that it can't be televised. When they bring an innocent man to be crucified, they don't want people knowing about it. They don't want to hold a mirror up to society. It was just the same as what was it when they televised the war? What was that American war there? The Vietnam War. They televised that, and people realized how terrible it was. So they stopped televising it after that. See, that's what it is. When people do evil, they know not to show it to everyone.
Well, you read, okay, this is what I'm running into with the Danny Masterson case, okay? And I have a large bias against Scientology anyway, but looking at claims when they're written, you don't see the mannerisms of the person. You can look in, you can try to investigate, you can try to find flaws in that, combing through documentation. But for the every person, seeing somebody there, having it confronted, watching it real time, yeah, that was the kicker. Otherwise, you would have the arbiters of truth, the mainstream media telling you what happened.
Yeah, the feminist mainstream media, that's right. Again, if you want to be 100% truthful, Todd, say feminist. Man-hating. Because that's what this is about. This is a woman attacking a man. That's what the identities are, male and female.
Telling you what was real.
Right. And I'm worried about that. I mean, if these trials are not televised, and of course there's other stuff coming out, there's multiple.
You think you're worried. You are immune to all this as a woman. Kurtz. I am worried.
Multiple lawsuits against Manson, and so there's actually a lawsuit, as you know, coming up in the fall with one of the Jane Doe accusers, who I go ahead and name her. It's Chloe Black, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, we really are. It's unfortunate when we're in a situation where we do have to depend on the mainstream media. And of course, I plan to go to these trials, but it's not like I have a huge reach, and I can I can get the word out to everybody.
You go there with a trial on. You come on every day, talk about it.
Absolutely.
For real, I'm not kidding. Every day, because like what
that will build his status. Exactly.
I need to hear from something outside the mainstream. Again, I can read their headlines; they'll be plastered everywhere. But I want somebody that's stationed there that will tell me what's going on. I mean, the case. Like, that was the other thing with like the Depp case. All of that background time, reading tens of thousands of pages. I mean, that really told you, what wasn't there, what was being presented, how it fit in.
Exactly. And do you think, Tug, that the average person is going to do that, go through all that information? No. They're just going to hear the lies from the feminist media, and they're going to believe it. And they want to believe it.
Into narratives, and people could fill in the blanks.
There you go. For the full 2-hour interview, no thank you. Look, you give me all that I need here, Kurtz, in this mere 16 minutes. That's good enough for me. And your 24-hour live stream, where are you two? Todd cannot do 24-hour live stream. He has to work to keep his wife around. That's the difference between male and female, everyone. Anyway, I'm going to end off saying what I did at the beginning. If you are a man who's a status chaser, you will never be able to tell the full truth. And if you're a woman, you're definitely not, because it works against your self-interest. Thank you, everyone.